News every 15 minutes, weather every 10, and sports twice an hour.
Newstalk, KGVO, AM 1290 and 101.5 FM.
You're listening to Montana Morning with Peter Christian.
It should be clear sailing for Ryan Zinke as Interior Secretary. Good morning, everyone. Montana Morning for Wednesday, February 1st, 2017. Skies partly cloudy. We have 12 degrees. It's chilly out there this morning. And the roads around western Montana are snow-covered and snow-packed and icy in all directions in and out of Missoula. Our newscast this morning sponsored by the Bitterroot Building Industry Association's 2017 Home and Ranch Expo coming up this Friday and Saturday at the Ravalli County Fairgrounds in Hamilton. The Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee has backed Montana Congressman Ryan Zinke for Interior Secretary and former Texas Governor Rick Perry for Energy Secretary. President Donald Trump's nominees met little resistance in the panel yesterday. The committee voted 16-6 for Zinke, 16-7 for Perry. The nominations now go to the full Senate. The recent travel ban on 7 countries issued by President Trump via executive order puts a pause on travel between Yemen, Iran, Iraq, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, Libya, and the U.S. for non-citizens and non-green card holders. The order also restricts refugees from these countries as well. According to Mary Poole, Executive Director of Soft Landing Missoula, the order directly impacts Missoula.
It definitely has an impact on Missoula and resettlement here. In terms of the refugees that have already been placed here, there's no indication that they would be affected in terms of having to return or being deported. They should be safe here. The impact that it does have on them is that, many refugees nationwide have other family members somewhere in the process.
Poole says there are already a couple of Iraqi and Syrian families in Missoula. She also hopes that the intensive review of the system can help make it even better.
I hope that they find that the program is very safe. It has a really safe track record, and if there are further safety measures that we can take, we absolutely should take those. I can speak to Soft Landing's work saying that, we definitely still have plenty of work to do, and we'll be keeping very, very busy over the next 4 months.
Former President Obama scheduled the number of refugees to enter the U.S. this fiscal year at 110,000, but President Trump has reduced that number now to 50,000. Just weeks after several mountain lions were euthanized for killing a pet dog in the Grant Creek area, Fish, Wildlife, and Parks were back in the region again to put down 2 more mountain lions. Wildlife conflict specialist Jamie Jonkel said these lions got very close to humans.
Boy, they were right in amongst people. Got real close to some folks that were in their hot tub, 10 feet away, and then were sort of hunting in between buildings, going under boat trailers, running into people. And we had 4 or 5 incidents where they were within 10 to 20 feet of people.
On Thursday night, residents tried to haze the lions away from their neighborhood, but they refused to leave.
When we responded the next day, the wardens found that they had made a kill right at sight, right in someone's yard. And because of that, sort of extreme behavior where they were getting so close to people, we felt it best to remove those 2 lions that were at sight. They would not leave.
The 2 lions that were killed were both males, weighing about 50 pounds apiece. Jonkel says Fish, Wildlife, and Parks are still monitoring to see if the other 2 family members, a female and her young, might return to the area. The death of a Libby woman last October is being investigated now as a homicide. Lincoln County Sheriff's Office said yesterday that 53-year-old Tammy Sunnell died of strangulation. She was found dead at a residence in the Libby area October 18th. Undersheriff Brandon Huff says circumstances at the state crime lab led Sunnell's autopsy to be significantly delayed. And anyone with information about Sunnell's death is asked to contact the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. 36-year-old Stephen Connor was scheduled to appear in Missoula Justice Court yesterday on charges that he assaulted and injured 2 sheriff's deputies and broke into a home in Lolo before being arrested. Deputy Missoula County Attorney Mac Bloom said even though Connor was arrested last Thursday, he did not appear in Justice Court yesterday.
It's alleged that he was passed out in the snow. Fire and medical responded on scene to help him. He got up and fled. Then the deputies made contact with him. He fled from the deputies, entered a random person's home. The deputies followed him inside where there was a struggle that resulted in Mr. Connor striking Corporal Leonard with a bar stool and then an active struggle with Deputy Wofstedt.
Bloom said the charges against Connor include 2 counts of felony assault on a peace officer and felony burglary after breaking into that residence.
The assault on a peace officer is punishable by not less than 2 years or more than 10 years in the state prison and a $50,000 fine. And the burglary is punishable by 20 years in the state prison and a $50,000 fine.
Officials will again try to get Connor to appear today, but the decision may be made to transport him to the Montana State Hospital in Warm Springs for an evaluation there. U.S. Senator Steve Daines has been appointed chairman of the Senate Subcommittee on National Parks. The Bozeman Republican's office announced the appointment yesterday. The subcommittee oversees much of the nation's natural resources, including national parks, trails, rivers, and outdoor resources. Daines says in an email he plans to work with President Trump's administration to reduce the National Park Service's maintenance backlog and restore integrity to the agency. As chairman of the subcommittee, Daines will be in close contact with Montana Congressman Ryan Zinke, who was confirmed yesterday by a Senate panel as Secretary of the Interior. Daines' appointment has been praised by Montana business groups and outdoor advocates. Missoula police were called to another robbery this week after employees attempted to stop a man from stealing items off the shelves at Best Buy out on North Reserve. Police spokesman Travis Welsh.
The report was that the suspect was fighting with employees and trying to get away. The officers got there relatively quickly and were able to take the man into custody without incident once they identified themselves to him. He identified himself as 46-year-old William Switzer.
When officers arrived, they noticed a man held down in a chair, and the employees had received scratches and bruises after a struggle.
The employees confronted him as he was attempting to leave the store with the merchandise. He denied having taken anything and tried to push his way past the employees. They had to physically restrain him, and eventually they did have to force him into a chair where they recovered the merchandise. He again tried to force his way out of the store and was again detained.
Switzer was on probation until 2018 for issuing a bad check. 2 bills that would expand gun rights have cleared the Montana House and will now be taken up by the Senate. A measure from Kalispell Republican Representative Randy Brodell that would eliminate enforcement of a federal law barring guns from the U.S. Post Office property passed Tuesday on a vote of 60 to 39. Also approved on the same vote, a concealed weapons measure from Helena Republican Representative Bill Harris. Our News Talk time now is 6:12.
News Talk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
Partly to mostly cloudy skies today with our high temperatures in the low 20s. It will be windy with wind gusts topping 30 miles per hour. Isolated threat of snow tonight with our overnight lows in the single digits. I'm meteorologist Brooke Foster for Missoula's KECI 13.